All right, welcome to another episode of the Podcast of Terror, a production of Galactic Netcasts. This is it's not the Tom Green show, but it is my show. I'm just kidding. It's our show. That's Corey. Corey's over there. He's being really quiet.
I get to be on the show too.
If you're watching the video, then you could probably see Corey's face. You can also see that I do not have blinds on my window, and the sun is directly coming into the window. So my eyes are basically closed at this point.
Yeah, but this is that last moment of the vampire movie where you finally get to defeat the main boss, is when the light starts shining in through the window. And
so if it gets too direct, you might hear me go, ha! And then my face will start melting and smoking. And it might be fun for somebody. I don't know. I bet that weird British bastard Daryl's watching and pointing and saying, I hope you fucking burn to death.
Do they have sunlight in Britain? I don't think that works, right?
I don't know. I hear it's cloudy from sun up to sundown.
Then why do they even call it sun up to sundown?
I
don't know. I need to move there.
Just get brighter. Yeah. I kind of lost where I was, but we talk about horror stuff. We're going to cover some horror games on this one. And a movie. Actually, the creepypastas, which are kind of movies. It was like 11 short movies.
Yeah, it was 11 short movies that don't add up to one movie, which was very lightweight for me on a Saturday night.
Some of them got a little boring, I'll be honest, but we'll get into that later. Also, we decided right before we started recording, we're going to talk about the new game show Hellevator, which the first episode was on Thursday? Wednesday?
I think so.
Wednesday?
PBRs change everything. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I have no content. It's just I wake up one morning and there's new things for me to watch. But it was a game show on the Game Show Network. I'm sure that's a real shocker. But the concept's kind of strange. It just seems to me like an interactive haunted house in which you can win money. But the first episode was hilarious in my opinion because it starred 3 black people, and black people have the purest reactions to being scared.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that that's both racist and true. So,
well, okay, I've worked in haunted houses and I've gone to haunted houses, and when I think a lot of them are very animated in their reactions. So when they're scared, they're the most entertaining to watch when scared.
They don't hold back in this, and I think that made it a far more enjoyable pilot episode. So we'll see if the rest of them can live up to this expectation.
I feel like if they put a bunch of white girls on there and the white girls screaming, it'll be fine. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. But like there was a scene where they're riding the elevator and between challenges, and a girl appears out of nowhere in the corner, and the lights come on, and the guy just starts saying, "Oh no," and pacing back and forth, and I'm like, I love the show.
Right? Yeah, and he had a great philosophy too. He's like, okay, shit went black. I'm going to stand in the middle. The middle is the safest place. Seems like no, the middle would be the place that you'd most likely get attacked from every angle. But he was kind of right. It was you stand there in the middle, and she didn't touch him, but boy, she freaked the shit out.
Yeah, it should have scared the shit out of me too. But that guy did like what did they won like $28,000, and that guy was a pretty integral part on them winning so much money.
Yeah.
So I guess what it boils down to the whole time I was watching, I was like, could I do this? I wonder if I could do this or not. And it didn't really seem like it would be that difficult to do until later on when it becomes more of like a haunted house where you have to walk through a hallway where shit's jumping out at you to get to your challenge to win your money.
The part where the woman was pulling the guts out of the actual living guy freaked me out a little bit. But it does different things in each level to play off of what kind of fears that you might have. And on top of that, the nice thing about haunted houses is you should feel safe. You should totally feel like there's nothing really wrong because no one's actually trying to kill you. But you can't help yourself. You know, the situation is there with the lights and the screaming and the chainsaws and everything else that's coming at you. You just get overwhelmed with it. Part of it is you're buying into it. Mm-hmm. But the other part is that it's still terrifying. You don't feel safe. I think people by nature don't feel safe.
I guess, I don't know, I have a hard time going to a haunted house and like really immersing myself into what's happening. I tend to always be able to find like it never leaves my mind that like this is all fake. But I've also yet to go attend a haunted house in our area that has like a compelling story. You know what I mean? And I think that what Elevator did well is that there was a story to this episode. It was 4 challenges all centered around one main guy, and I can't remember who it was because I ended up having to work at the same time as we were watching this. But
he was a mortician.
Yeah, it was an actual guy though, right? It was a real story.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was based off a real story, or they played it off really well, like it was. And that's the other thing too, is waiting to see the next episode to see if they give us more characters like that, or if it's the same thing over again. That would get dull really fast. So how do they break it up for each of the challenges?
I'm curious. It seems like the show will probably have a very limited amount of success, and mostly because it is Halloween time.
Right.
Beyond that, I mean, a lot of people kind of lose their interest in horror and scary stuff after.
Yeah, but we're also talking about people that are watching the Game Show Network, and you know that whole concept seems like it could get pretty old rather fast. I like to tune in every once in a while and check out old shows of Press Your Luck or Whammy, whatever one that they're doing at the time.
I do as well.
Card Sharks, things like that. But their original content is usually at least mildly entertaining. So, and this was something different for them. I think it's interesting.
It's a different concept for game shows altogether. You know what I mean?
Well, MTV had a game show or something similar where they had people running through haunted houses or like haunted places that weren't necessarily haunted houses. It was kind of like the Ghost Hunters, but with teeny bopper MTV cast people.
But better.
Yeah. And I think it's something that I'm not going to say that I haven't seen stuff like this before, but it's been a while.
Oh, I completely agree. I remember MTV Sphere was on TV when I was like a sophomore in high school, and it was on Sunday nights before DVRs, obviously. And I used to try and skip my CCD classes, catechism, whatever you want to call it, to watch it on TV. So I would like find someone's house I could go to. This is like right after I could drive. Like I would go to church. My parents would think I was at church, and I would jump ship to go watch Fear at someone's house.
Yeah,
that's how good this show was. I defied Jesus to watch it.
Yeah, it always comes back to that. To me, it was all about the cameras facing up at the people's faces the whole time and the green light.
Yeah,
and just how weird that looked in and of itself.
And now it's a very, very common thing.
Yeah, it's everywhere now.
So yeah, I recommend watching Elevator. We have the DVR, so we'll see how long it sticks around and hope for the best. I'm really excited about this, which is why I want to start talking about it. But I don't even remember when it started. There's 19 days left in the Kickstarter for Friday the 13th, the game. So today is October 25th. They currently have $524,000 of their $700,000. This game sounds tits because it has the original. They're using Kane Hodder.
Tom Savini is part of the crew for it. He's worked on the makeup and setting things up for it. The storytelling sounds great, and it's sort of more than one game because it's kind of like a multiplayer capture the flag kind of thing, except one person gets to play Jason and everybody else is the people that he's chasing down and killing.
So it sounds similar to the game Evolve, where there's one person plays the bad guy and the other people are trying to kill him, essentially. But this is way cooler of an idea because of what it is, in my opinion. I mean, I played Evolve and it was very mediocre, but I think this could be awesome.
It really could be. I mean, following what Friday the 13th is the kind of game that it needs to be, because if you're just playing a game where all there is playing Jason, well, I think that can be fun. It gets a little...
Probably get old real quick.
Right, over the top, and what else can you really do? And if you're just a person who's running from Jason, the whole thing of the Friday the 13th is seeing the multiple victims happening, and unless you're just sort of witnessing it, then it's not a game. So this sounds like a smart way to do it. It's just the requirement of having multiple people playing at once, which isn't so hard these days.
So it sounds kind of like the objective, if you're not playing as Jason, is to escape, not necessarily kill him.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to kill Jason.
Well, it says
never lasts.
There's a portion in the Kickstarter that says fight or flight. It says Jason is deadly, but he can be stopped. So the movie does have an end, right? Which makes complete sense. It says you have a multitude of ways to escape from Crystal Lake. If you're not satisfied with running, you'll have the opportunity to take him out, but he won't go down easy, and nothing is a sure thing. So it seems really, really in depth.
Yeah, and I played a game recently, which was sort of like an 8-bit game emulated through a browser. That was you're going to this party, and your job is to kill everybody there.
I saw that. How was that game?
It is terribly fun. It is not a deep game at all, but in the context of you're in there and you've got to lead people out by themselves or find them in rooms where they're alone and kill them so that other people don't catch you doing it, and then get away from there before someone else discovers you and the body. And then there's cops that come around, and sometimes the cops, they start to multiply the further you get along and the more people that are dead.
What's the name of this game?
I forget what it's called. I wish I could find it right now, but it was something that I kind of started playing one night while I was watching Creepy Coffee Movie Time, and it pulled me in.
This is driving me nuts. I swear I saw the game on Steam or something, and wasn't entirely sure if it would be good or not. But yeah, yeah. The Kickstarter for Friday the 13th. I mean, there's a bunch of really cool stuff. Like, and right now I have like just the basic, the early backer digital version of the game for Xbox, PS4, or PC. But there's one, and my wife might kill me if I do this. Luckily, she doesn't listen to the show, so she might never find out. But you can get a special edition. I'm trying to find it. It's called the Physical Machete Steel Collector's Pack. $140 will get you the physical game with a Kickstarter exclusive collectible steel case and slipcover on platform of your choice. Exclusive in-game playable Jason character designed by Tom Savini with a unique weapon. And for $90 more, you can get the thing signed. I feel like it is worth it, but...
Although Tom Savini is someone that you might run into at a con somewhere and just get him to sign it personally, which would make it even cooler.
It's signed by Sean Cunningham, Tom Savini, Kane Hodder, Harry Mendefrini, Gun Media, and Ilphonic. Man, I don't know the concept of the steel case, but I buy a game, I play the game, and then I almost always turn around and sell the game.
I should sell more games because I have a ton of games that, one, I've never even played. I've never opened them. They're just still in the packaging and stuff. And
I know a lot of people that they buy it, they keep it. I buy it, and like Until Dawn, I beat it in like 3 days, and then like 2 weeks later, I was like, likelihood of me actually going back to play it are next to nothing. So
aren't they working on some downloadable content for it?
Probably, but there's other games.
At this point in time, you can probably rebuy it for less than you sold it for.
Oh, easily. But the thing is I can go. I'll just play I'll play other games, and I'll never come back to it. That's just the harsh reality of how I play video games. I play them, and when I'm done with them, I move on.
Yeah.
Except for sports.
Like, yeah, because sports. I mean, really, what changes in each game every year? Although I'm sure you still buy the new game every year.
I buy FIFA every year, and I'm so bad at it this year that I don't know why I continue to play it, because it sends me into a vicious rage spiral. But I still play. It's like doing crack for the first time. Like, I keep chasing that high of that I might actually win, and then it ends in regret and sadness.
Hey, so the game that I was talking about earlier, the 8-bit game, was called Party Hard, and you can find it to play in your browser if you've got Flash installed, which is probably scarier than the game itself, but the game is still a good time.
You can... It is on Steam.
Yeah. Be worth playing it there, too.
Yeah, for $13, though.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of difference it makes to play it on Steam than for the money when you can play it for free. Maybe they got more levels. It was pretty repetitive.
Oh.
Anyways, you can find out more about our show and the other shows on our network by going to gncast.com for the Galactic Netcast. You can search for all of our shows on iTunes or Stitcher. And if you like what you hear, you can leave us reviews. We like 5 stars or thumbs up, but we'll take what we can get. Just like to let us know that you're out there. You can also get involved in our community by joining the Galactic Collective. There's a handy link how to do that over at galacticnetcast.com. And you can also leave us feedback by emailing us at galacticnetcast@gmail.com or leaving us a voice message by calling 805-328-3966. Tell us what you're doing, what you're thinking, what games you're playing, especially if they're horror games. We'd love to hear about it.
To answer your question on Steam, there was a free update that adds 7 parties to the game.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool.
So it sounds like if you actually purchase it, there's additional parties than probably just the one.
Yeah, that's a thing that's what would make a difference.
I'm going to add it to my wish list. Maybe there's going to be a Steam sale coming up. I'll get that bad boy real cheap. Yeah, thanks for doing the white man's business over there, buddy.
Can't get whiter than me.
Oh, God, you're so white.
Practically see-through.
Wow. So, speaking of things that are see-through and scary, as we mentioned earlier, we took a break from traditional movies and found on moviepilot.com, which has a ton of really awesome stuff. I finally, more recently, when we started doing this podcast, followed them on Facebook, and they always have a lot of really good shit. But they have a list of 11 fan-made creepypasta short films that will creep you the fuck out. I had read a good portion of these, so I was really excited to watch them.
Yeah, my wife had recognized one of them when we were watching them last night. She recognized the story when it started up. She's like, "Oh, I know this one." And then she was really disappointed with the way it was filmed, even though I thought it was one of the better ones on there. She's like, "I would have done it completely different." I'm like, "Well, then get off your goddamn ass and go do it."
Which one?
It was closer to the end. It was probably
the Smiling Man.
Yes, the Smiling Man.
So I figured. I remembered something, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Number 1 on the list is White with Red. But now before we really get into it, I'll have the link in the show notes, and it'll be everywhere. So feel free to watch them. I think the longest one was like 11 minutes long. So
yeah, they were not very long at all, and some of them were closer to like 4 minutes.
A lot of them were like 4 to 6 minutes. So half an hour of your time, you can knock all these out. White with Red was. I feel like a lot of these are just better left as text.
Yeah, White with Red really didn't give you anything. It was just some visuals to go with the story, but wasn't much of a story there. A lot of them, I think, probably work better as narratives. Mm-hmm. So if they're showing you stuff, having someone talking over it, narrating made more sense because they really couldn't, for the most part, with the budget they were working with, it looked like they couldn't do enough to tell the story with showing instead of telling.
Yeah, and I never read White with Red, so this one was new to me. So I don't know if there was more in the text version, but it just seemed, I don't know. It wasn't scary like when he first looks through the keyhole the second time, the morning after, and then just the eye is red.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell it's an eyeball, but you're not really sure. And then they revisit it after the guy at the counter at the hotel or the motel tells them. And I remember being like, well, okay.
Like, yeah, he wasn't freaked out enough when he looked at it in the night and he saw the woman in the corner.
Right.
Just kind of like he stares in there and he sees her for a quick second and he backs away and then he goes back to bed. And I'm like, I probably wouldn't have done that. And the other thing is that it's a closed door story. A closed door story isn't really that great unless they open the door. Yeah.
Right. And the guy at the motel says, don't go in there.
Right.
Looks in there and then he's like, oh, you looked, didn't you? And I was like, well, motherfucker, you didn't say don't look. You said don't go in there. So, right. It was. I applaud the effort of every one of these for the people taking the time to make them. So regardless of what I say, that's my feeling on them as a whole.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much shit about people who actually make art. You know, whether the art is, and I know that we're a review show and that's kind of what we do. But overall, we still respect the fact that people get off their asses and do it, and they put forth the effort. And in this case, especially with these being like smaller production, not even companies, in some cases, it seems like people are just doing this sort of on their own. We don't want to hang them for it. But in this case, I think the effects and the filming were strong. I just don't think there was enough story there.
I agree. But I'm assuming whoever made the story did not write the original creepypasta. Therefore, you're dealing with a limited amount of content.
Right.
So like like you said, I'm not going to point the finger and say you did this wrong. I appreciate there being a visual because I would rather watch something than read it. Um, they did what they could with what they had, which is awesome. Because I could never do something like that, no matter how hard I tried. So I tip my hat to that man. I assume it was a man. We'll move on to number 2. I don't want to kill too much time on all these, but this one was strange. Like, you really had to be paying attention. And keep in mind, on this list, it has like a creepy factor for every video. The first one was just ghosts. This one is a twist ending, so it's kind of like waiting for it. But it's essentially this homeless guy who stands in the subway, and when people walk by, he just says words.
Yeah, and this one, when I clicked on it at first, I didn't realize it was on Vimeo. It's the only one of these that's not on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I went to YouTube and I tried to look it up there, and I found another version, which was basically the same story, except instead of taking place in San Francisco and the BART, it took place in, I think, Japan. And the video portion of it was just going through the same subway tunnels towards the train, and then subway tunnel and train, just the repetitive thing over and over again. So it was just basically someone telling the story.
Oh.
And so when I saw this, I was like, well, it's still mostly just someone telling the story, except they're actually acting it out at the same time.
Yeah.
The story is exactly the same. So this one seems like they just read it right off the site and they just changed the location.
Yeah, and the one thing is, like, this, it's not there's no like creepy or twist to it unless you're really paying attention.
And
so,
that's really it, is that you have to pay attention to get the twist on this one.
So at the end, the guy who's telling the story finally says, "Oh, I just went into him. I said, 'What's your ability?' And the guy's like, 'Well, I can't see the future, but I can tell the last thing that people have eaten.'" And then, if you're paying attention, the guy telling the story says that the first person
is a pig.
He sees his pig, and then this businessman walks by and puts money in his cup, and he calls him human. So at the end, I was like, "Holy fucking shit, that guy ate a human!"
Right.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
And like, the narrator doesn't even figure it out. He just is like, "Oh, what a lame power."
Yeah.
And he doesn't even make the connection in the story. So
which I think helps, because you're, as a reader, either going to catch it and be like, "Wow, that's actually really clever," or you're going to be like, "Well, that's fucking stupid. Nothing happened." So I like that one.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that he ate human doesn't necessarily mean he's a cannibal. It might have just been some Chef Boyardee.
That's true. That's very true. I'm just going to go ahead and assume he was a cannibal. The rake was kind of dumb. Do you even really want to talk about it?
I mean, it's a monster invasion story, which, again, not a lot of story there. The jump scare of it was pretty good. The fact that it ended when it did, I don't know. I like the quality of who made it. Absolutely. I think the actress and everybody that was in it was fine. It wasn't enough story to build any depth, but it felt very creepy pasta-ish.
Yes. Much like the next one. This one actually kind of scared me a little bit. The expressionless. The video picture, the still is the main picture for the list, which is kind of what intrigued me, because it's terrifying.
Or hot. Yeah, this one is probably my favorite production, except for the very last one. And it does stand out. I don't know how I feel about how it ended, because she winds up saying to them, "I am God," and then the same "I am God" line comes up in the 6th film that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to figure out if that's a theme to some of these stories or what it is.
It might be. Speaking of themes, we should maybe take some time. There's on the No Sleep subreddit, there's a guy who has like a bunch of intertwining stories that he writes that are actually really, really, really good. We'll talk more about that later. The username is Bloodstains, for anyone listening that's curious. And there was like a correspondence one and a couple other ones that all kind of end up tying together. But yeah, we'll talk about that one later. Yeah, the expressionless is about what you assume to be like a demon mannequin who eats people, but like just the no expression on her face, thus the expressionless. It's kind of unsettling.
It is. And I mean, she walks into the hospital and everyone's just kind of agape looking at her, and
she's covered in blood.
Yeah, she's covered in blood. But at that point in time, you don't know if it's something happened to her or she did something to somebody else. Apparently, in the story, she was supposed to have a kitten clamped in her jaws.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm kind of glad that didn't make it on the film.
Yeah. I'm allergic to cats, but that doesn't mean that I wish harm upon cats. Like animal cruelty just makes me kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean it's supposed to, but this this is one of the ones that I would like to see made into a full film. I would love to see this one get kind of brought out a little bit more and explored.
There would have to be more content from
Yeah,
this.
exactly. I
Oh,
mean, they would have to go into the backstory of what it is. They would have to kind of develop it, but it seems like it would be a pretty cool horror monster in the vein of what Slenderman already is.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the story's written from the standpoint of the nurse, so she kind of says like, "Oh, I never saw her again." The
Yeah.
nurse referred to her as the expressionless, and that's where it came from. But moving on to number 5, the Midnight Man ritual. Now, this ritual is Dave and I covered on Weird World Weekly. Shit, towards the beginning of the show, it was a while back. I found like a list of all these weird rituals, and I read about them because I'm fucking weird. And so when I saw this on the list, I got real excited. It's just like a found footage of this guy doing the Midnight Man ritual, which I suggest anyone listening who's curious go read it. It's kind of a lot to explain since there's steps involved and everything. But I actually jumped at the end when he's sitting in the circle and the Midnight Man's face like comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, this one seems similar to Bloody Mary or Candyman, those kinds of things where you're summoning something that's evil. This one also reminded me of that Slenderman movie that we watched.
Yeah, yeah,
It had that kind of feel to it because he was in his own house and he was kind of filming things and trying to bring it out himself. It was sufficiently creepy. And then of course when he's in a safety circle, I'm like, he's gonna break the circle. That's just that has to happen. But
yeah,
it was good. I think that one sent my wife out of the room.
yeah. Next one, Sonic.exe. This is another one I had heard about and read a while back.
Yeah, I'd even heard about this one, and I'm not sure exactly where.
I'm not sure either. I don't. This could have been talked about on Weird World Weekly. I don't know. I feel like this one's been around for a really long time, but the visual giving this story visuals made it way better, in my opinion.
See, I've got to say this is probably my least favorite one, just because the guy kept reading you everything that was on the screen. The way he kept talking to himself just felt very hammy, and I never felt like I understood what was happening to him or why I should be scared. You know, it's like someone drops off a CD at his house, and then he starts playing a game. Then he keeps playing the game, even though he's like, "Oh, shit's going wrong." And
I feel like the scariest point of this is the fact that like a video game that everyone has played is there's an alternate version out there that can kill you.
yeah, I could see that. And obviously, infections in your computer are always something to be worried about too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think this was scary. I just thought it was cool to see.
It was a little cool. I mean, this is something that definitely suffered from the budget.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, you can only do so much when you have to like replicate video game stuff that doesn't really exist.
Yeah,
Um,
and the fact that they got to use a such a mainstream character and haven't really
Multiple.
been sued. Yeah, so
More than one. They did at the beginning though. There was a credit to Sega in there, so that could have been what they all they had to do. You know.
yeah, I don't know, but it was. This is where I think I tuned out for a minute. I was just like, okay, this is not great.
Yeah.
But
See, the next one is where I completely lost focus. The girl in the photograph. I didn't really care for her at all. Like the main character, looking at him upset me. Looking at that guy, I just wanted to slap him. So
yeah, you deserve what you're gonna get, Mister.
yeah,
I Yeah, I think probably the best part about this was that in the photograph of this girl that he finds, and then he starts looking around for her in the woods and sees her and starts following her. in the beginning of the film, when he finds it, she's got two fingers held up. And then at the end, when he's dead, the photograph pops back up again, and she's got three fingers held up. So she's counting her kills.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah, it was kind of meh.
Since we're pushing time here, just wanna number 8 is Smile Dog. It wasn't really that great. I've read this one before, so I was hoping for more. One I do really want to talk about number 9.
Yeah,
number 9 was the longest. It's called Trust. It's just two guys in a room, and they're my interpretation of it, and I could be right, I could be wrong, you could feel differently, but it was that these two guys were made to think that they were being tested by people that they didn't know, and then it turns out that one of the guys was the one doing it.
yeah, it's a little too much like Saw, I think, but the level of they made a story out of what they were doing, which I think is better than what most of the other ones did.
Yeah.
The interaction between the two characters, the acting wasn't phenomenal, but it was solid, and maybe it was elevated, maybe it was taken down a little bit by the fact that their accents were very heavy and made it so you had to listen to it to figure out what they were saying.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite part is the name of the author is Naina Najah. Like
Yes.
It's Nanaja. It's not that hard to say. Naina Najah. Not going to work here anymore. Doesn't matter. Sorry. Number 10 is the one that we referenced earlier, The Smiling Man. I think this is the one that freaked out your wife.
Well, no, she would have filmed it completely differently. And the thing about this one is that it doesn't seem supernatural at all, the way that it's portrayed in this movie. And I think that she expected it to look more unhuman.
Yeah. Now, if you go to the story, the actual Smiling Man story, the drawing of the guy is much more like insane looking. He has a really wide shit-eating grin, whereas in the short, it's just a guy who's smiling as wide as a person can smile. I really feel like there should have been some sort of prosthetic to make his mouth really accentuated, and that's what I was expecting, because that would have made it that much creepier.
Yeah, but he was still pretty creepy. The way that he moved,
Yes.
the fluidity of his movements and stuff did kind of spook me out a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely like weird. It was kind of settling. Yeah. But
also, I've been taking walks at night at about 9:30 or 10 every night. I go for a half-hour walk, and I took one last night after watching all these. I'm like, that one's gonna not sit well with me tonight.
You're dumb. Why would you do that? Number 11, Fathom, which is a Slender Man story.
And this is basically the creepypasta. I mean, this is what I know them for, is the Slenderman stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I came in on. And this was actually, as far as I've seen, it felt like it was continuing the mythology of Slenderman without telling the same story. And I hadn't understood any kind of connection to taking children before, but I liked this. I liked this one a lot.
It was good. I mean, it was not bad at all. I'm starting to feel like Slenderman is becoming a little too, I don't want to say mainstream, but I feel like it's becoming a bit played out. Like there's just so much Slender shit right now.
I can see that. I mean, we talked briefly before we started the show that there's a Slender game coming out for the Wii U.
Yeah.
Slender the Arrival.
Which is already on PC.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
There's actually multiple Slender games out there, I think, on Steam. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's a bit played out. But
at the same time, it's not any different than there being multiple Nightmare on Elm Street or multiple Friday the 13th movies or Hellraiser or whatever. It's just that this is something that's not owned by a studio. This is owned by the internet. This is owned by the public. Yep. So it's like a public domain version of Freddy Krueger or of Michael Myers or whatever. And that makes it kind of cool, is the fact that anybody can play with this. And they should. I've written stuff before that I wanted to release into the public domain afterwards so that other people could take the characters further and do different stuff with it that I wouldn't think to do or put the fucking effort into doing.
Yeah.
I think that's actually really neat. It's something that is, terrifying. It's like the Boogeyman for everyone. Mm-hmm. And the Boogeyman is already the Boogeyman for everyone, but we've we don't take that seriously anymore.
We're all desensitized.
Yeah.
You got to find something else to scare the shit out of you. So that wraps up the list. Can't really give dead hookers to 11 different movies. I wouldn't even call them movies. 11 different short videos.
Yeah, some of them rank in a 1 for me, and some of them make it up to at least a 4. The Slenderman one definitely hits a 4. Trust might be a 3.5. The Expressionless, I think, is probably a 4 as well. I think those are probably the top ones.
Yeah, Trust, Midnight Man was really good in my opinion, and The Expressionless, and then the rest kind of go down there from there. But yeah, that wraps up for another fun-filled, star-studded episode of the Podcast of Terror. Thank you for listening, Corey. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, just from my experience the other night. I went to a gay bar on Friday night and I woke up Saturday morning with a sore throat. That's a story in and of itself. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
Fun, quick story. I said something to my wife about we were going to record a podcast real quick. And I said, yeah, I wasn't sure we were going to do it. Corey had a sore throat. And she said, well, tell him to stop sucking so much dick. And I'm like, I can't confirm or deny the amount of dick that he sucks. And she goes, you mean he sucks dick? I'm like, I don't know if he sucks dick.
Define so much.
Well, and that's the thing. But now I'm going to have to go tell her, be like, well, he was at a gay bar on Friday. And now his throat hurts.
Yep.
Saw
a really amazing window display at the Five and Dime, though. Horror display. I posted it on Facebook. They put a lot of effort in.
Yeah, I thought it was actually really cool. So yeah, we'll leave everyone with that weird story about your throat hurting after a night out at gay bars. So thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care.
All right. That was awesome.
That was fun.